Okay, I have gotten so many requests for a Biscoff cake, also known as a cookie butter cake, and I promise you today's recipe was worth the wait. This recipe consists of super soft spiced Biscoff cake layers frosted with a Biscoff buttercream and filled with Biscoff cookie butter and Biscoff cookies. It is ridiculously good. So to start off, you want to preheat your oven to 180°C or 350°F conventional and grease or line two 8-inch cake tins. Today I'm just using my homemade cake release to grease my tins. It works so well. I have the full recipe on how to make this on cakesbymk.com. Now just pop your cake tins aside for now, and next we're going to sift together our dry ingredients. So I've got 300 grams or 2 1/3 cups of plain all-purpose flour, 30 grams or 1/4 cup of cornstarch, half a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then using a whisk or fork, give that a good mix until it's well combined and set it aside for now. Next, in a large bowl, you want to add in 113 grams or half a cup of room temperature unsalted butter, 105 grams or half a cup of unflavored vegetable oil, I use canola oil, and 250 grams or 1 1/4 cups of soft light brown sugar. And then using a hand or stand mixer on a medium speed, cream that together for 2 minutes until it's light and fluffy. Next, you want to add in 3 large room temperature eggs one at a time, mixing on a low to medium speed and making sure that each egg is mixed in well before adding in the next, so about 10 seconds in between each egg. It's super important to make sure that your eggs are at room temperature, otherwise they're not going to mix into the batter properly. Now once all the eggs are in, then next you want to add in 130 grams or half a cup of Biscoff cookie butter. This is just going to add great flavor to the cake. And 2 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract or essence. And then you just want to mix that in until it's well combined. Now you just want to get all of the batter off of your attachments because the rest of the mixing we're going to be doing with a spatula. So first you want to add in half of your pre-mixed dry ingredients from earlier into the batter and fold that in until just combined. Next, you want to add in 280 grams or 1 1/4 cups of room temperature buttermilk and fold that in until just combined, and then add in the remaining dry ingredients and fold that in until just combined. It's important not to overmix the batter, otherwise you're going to end up with a tough and dense cake. Now to finish off the batter, we're going to add in 15 Biscoff cookies. You want to use the ones that don't have any cream, so just the plain biscuits. And you want to break them up into small chunks just using your hands and add them to the batter. You can cut them up with a knife too, but I just find that it's much quicker just using your hands. And then you just want to fold them in until they're just combined. Again, you do not want to overmix. Okay, so that is our batter all done, and now you just want to evenly distribute it into our 2 pre-prepared cake tins. I like to weigh my cake tins just to make sure that they weigh roughly the same amount, and then I just even out the tops using my spatula, drop the cake tins lightly on the counter to remove any large air bubbles, and now these are going to go into the oven for 37 to 40 minutes, or until a toothpick comes out clean or with a few moist crumbs on it. So once the cakes are done, you want to let them cool in the cake tins for about 20 minutes, just to allow them to firm up a little. And then you just want to run a thin knife around the edges to release the cakes from the cake tins and turn them out onto a wire rack to completely cool. These cakes are so incredibly soft and fluffy, but still have great structure as well. Now while these cakes are cooling, we're going to go ahead and make our super delicious Biscoff cookie butter buttercream. So to start off, you want to place 15 Biscoff cookies into a food processor and process them until they resemble fine crumbs. They should look like this when they're done. Now you just want to pop those biscuit crumbs aside for now, and next in a large bowl you want to add in 340 grams or 1 1/2 cups of room temperature unsalted butter, 350 grams or 2 3/4 cups of powdered sugar, 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of either milk or heavy cream, whatever you have on hand. And then using a hand or stand mixer, first mix on a low speed just to allow everything to combine, and then turn up the speed to a medium-high and whip for a full 10 minutes. Scraping down the bowl halfway through just to make sure everything's mixing properly. If you're using a stand mixer, then you want to use the whisk attachment. And if you want to free up your hands a bit, then I do recommend using your stand mixer. I just couldn't be bothered pulling mine out of my cupboard today. Now, by mixing for an extended period of time, it's just going to make your buttercream super light and fluffy and smooth. Now, once you're done mixing, you should end up with a very smooth and fluffy buttercream. Now, if it's still quite firm and you can't kind of run your spatula through it nice and easily, then it most likely means that your butter is just a little bit too cold. And so just pop your buttercream into the microwave for 5-second bursts until it's slightly softer. Don't warm it too much, otherwise it will turn into a liquidy mess, which you just really don't want. And then you just want to whip it up again for a few more minutes and it should be good to go. Now, to finish off our buttercream, you just want to add in 70 grams or a quarter cup of Biscoff cookie butter spread and the crushed Biscoff biscuits from earlier. And then just mix that in until it's well combined. And then that is our super delicious, not too sweet Biscoff buttercream all done. So my cake layers have come to room temperature now, which means that we can start stacking this cake. Now, before you get started, you want to have some extra cookie butter on the side. You'll need 170 grams or 2/3 cups, and you'll need to heat it up just a little bit so that it's slightly softer in consistency. Otherwise, it's just going to be really hard to spread out in between the cake layers. But you do want to make sure that it's not warm though when we come to putting it on the buttercream, which I'll show you how to do later on, because if it's warm, it's going to melt your buttercream, which you don't want. And then you also want to have some extra Biscoff cookies to decorate at the end. So to start off, I'm going to trim off the top of my cake layers. They're already quite flat, so I'm only trimming off a small amount. And then I'm also going to trim off the caramelized edges. This is optional though, so you can skip this step if you prefer. Next, I'm going to place my first cake layer onto my cake stand, and I'm going to spread out a thin layer of the Biscoff buttercream. I'm then going to use a 1M piping tip to pipe a dam of frosting around the edges of the cake layer. And then inside this dam, I'm going to place half of the Biscoff cookie butter. The buttercream dam on the edge is just going to make sure that the Biscoff spread doesn't seep out the edges because we have thinned it out a little bit. Once that's done, I'm placing my next cake layer onto my cake stand and spreading out a generous amount of frosting on the top and sides of the cake so that the cake is completely covered. I like to use my cake scraper to smooth out the sides, and then I use my offset spatula to bring that top lip of frosting into the middle of the cake so that I have some nice smooth edges. I'm then going to use the same 1M piping tip from earlier to pipe a border on the top edge of my cake, and then I'm going to fill the middle with the remaining Biscoff spread. If the spread has thickened up again, then you can just heat it up a little to thin it out, but do make sure that it isn't warm when placing it on the buttercream, otherwise it's going to melt your buttercream, so it does need to be at room temperature. Now to finish off, I'm just going to break some Biscoff cookies in half and place them on top of the cake, and also break some in my hands to create some crumbs and just sprinkle that over the top as well. And then that is it. My Biscoff cookie butter cake is all done. This cake is packed with so much Biscoff flavor without it being overpowering, and it has the most soft and tender cake layers. If you're a Biscoff fan, then you absolutely have to give this cake a go. It's so good. The cake layers are just so incredibly soft, and that Biscoff buttercream and Biscoff spread just add such a wonderful creaminess to the cake. If you're someone who loves Biscoff, then you absolutely have to give this Biscoff cake a go. So that is it for today, guys. If you do decide to give this cake a go and you love it just as much as I do, then please do leave a review on my blog. It really helps my content out, and I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I'll see you in the next video.